And this has been like an ongoing project, and this is really a passion of mine to see our polls covered. And back in January, I put together an analysis of the last 3 November elections, and found that there's a whole lot of misinformation being put out of the election office here, the registrar's office, and we could have maybe done something about that when our appointment for our member of the electoral board came up for re-election or reappointment this year. And Wendell had talked to me about his disappointment with Mr. Cobbs, who never comes to our meetings and doesn't help us out. And clearly from all of the errors I found in that office, he's not looking out for us and making sure that we have Republicans in the precincts. And so I would like to ask Mr. Walker what happened when he said that he would nominate me to the electoral board.
He said he would come right back.
Oh. Okay.
Well, I guess I'm sorry.
Nomination to the electoral board of Mr. Cobb.
Yeah, you said you would nominate me to the electoral board, right? Did you submit that nomination?
Yes, when you and I met
Yes.
earlier on, yes.
And
And
did
I
the
submitted your name.
right? Did the judge sign that?
I don't know what the judge did, as far as paperwork. I submit 3 names, and I've already explained to you the names that were submitted.
Right.
And then when I came back, the David,
When you came back to what? That you gave a piece of paper to a judge that should have been signed. According to the code, he promptly signs it. And so then,
I gave the papers to the judge.
right? And
Okay.
did he sign it?
Well, he had to if he made the appointment.
Okay.
But once the
So,
judge gets it, I don't see any other papers.
and then from there, it went to where? How did you consult with the Democrat on the electoral board
I did
about
not
me?
consult with the Democrat.
You just
before
brought
the
up his
appointment.
name. Okay.
All right, so when I spoke to David, who was on the electoral board, and I said that, I submitted 3 names, and then I found out there was an investigation.
Wait, why did you consult him about names?
I
you-
didn't. John mentioned it. I talked to David. I said, can you tell me? He said, no, we can't because the investigation is ongoing.
How did John know about it?
Because he's on the
Did the
electoral
judge,
board.
did the judge tell John?
No, the
Who
electoral
told-
board.
No, the judge would say, we've appointed Betty.
Okay, the judge has the email. If you want to ask Pat Yates for the email that I sent him, why don't you do that? Then that way, for your information, you'll know exactly.
Okay, so an email
So
that did what?
I asked the judge to withdraw your name from consideration and put John's name back in based on the fact that there was an investigation going on regarding that precinct.
According to the election law, that's not how you put somebody on the electoral board. You submit names on paper to a
I
judge.
did, and John's name was submitted.
You don't
after
submit
I submitted
emails
your
to the
3
judge
names.
later, though.
I'm sorry?
So everybody's kind of leaving, so I think it would be best, since this is all kind of out of order, I mean, it's important topics, but this discussion can continue, but I think we should adjourn the meeting, because there's really no business on the floor insofar as this conversation is concerned.
Will you attend this
So
discussion?
as far as, pardon me?
Will you attend this
I
discussion?
mean, I gotta close down the room, so if y'all are here talking, I'm
I
gonna be.
have no problem with.
So there was a motion to adjourn, and that motion was seconded, so as far as that's concerned, all in favor of adjourning?
You don't even need that.
Okay, well then, so the meeting's adjourned, and then y'all can continue the discussion, anybody who wants to hang out and talk about it.
Wendell, why didn't
Have
you
consulted
ask?
with the judge, asked for the email that I submitted to him?
I went to the court to get a copy of what you said you gave them. They don't have any record of it.
They have no record of it.
How can they not have a record of it?
I don't know. I don't
Because
run the courthouse.
Could you get that for us? Because they say they have no record of it. If you send them an email, could you forward that
Well,
to
then
us?
how could they make the change if they didn't have?
That's what
notification?
that's what we're wondering. What the heck is going on? Okay.
With that, I-
Because now-
Once I submitted to Mrs. Green, who was Judge Yates' secretary,
Right. Right.
then after that, I had no.
So I called his secretary.
Yeah,
And she sent me to the people downstairs who do the record scanning.
Right.
And they said they don't keep any incoming at all. No incoming. They only keep the judge's final order. And I was like, is
So
that
they
proper
don't keep
record
the
keeping?
mail?
That's what they told me. And I was like, you've got to be kidding. That's not proper record keeping for any government office. So I'm just wondering, the two women because I went into the office to get a copy of it, and
I hand delivered that to Ms. Green.
it's crazy. For one thing, I think they have a
with
big.
John's Same application
Right.
you filled out.
If the courts don't keep correspondence, that's a problem. Seriously.
Well,
did
that's
you hear
beyond-
that, Eric? I mean, they said that they don't keep any incoming into the judge's office. They only keep the judge's final order. So that's a problem. So if you have what you sent, that would be great. Because I want to go back. I was like, look, you guys, you got incoming. Don't tell us, really this is ridiculous. But the other question is, there's supposed to be this police investigation, right? So when you heard about that, I'm surprised you didn't talk to Betty and say, you're implicated, it sounds like you've been targeted with this investigation. Is that true? Because actually, it turns out it's not.
Conversation you mentioned that there was, the thumb drives were going on and the police were looking into it.
Right.
In one of our sit-down conversations.
Right? Jim is a part of that precinct.
Yeah.
It just seems like she hasn't had a chance to face her accuser, which sounds like it's someone on the electoral board who told you that there's this police investigation that's targeting her. So she didn't have a chance to face her accuser at all because you just believe what they were saying. You believe what they were saying instead of saying, wait a minute. Are you really the target? Or are you just part of all the people who worked in the precinct who were being questioned because you all worked in the precinct? But that doesn't mean that are they really blaming her for stealing the thumb drive?
No, I don't
You
think
see?
there's any indication of any blame at all.
Except
The
from
reason-
you then, because you pulled my name.
Yeah.
So you're the one that's blaming me. And see, John Cobbs has never come to bat for any Republican, ever.
Okay.
Not me, not when that allegation was put forward. He didn't come to you and say, no, she's not a target. So, of course,
No,
he
nobody
would have
ever
lost his
indicated
job
anybody
that he
was a
hasn't been
target.
doing.
Well, why would you pull her
David
name?
Newmeyer did.
Well, when I heard there was an investigation, I went back and asked who it was, and so he didn't indicate anybody. That's the reason I'm saying that you never were indicated.
Then why was my name pulled?
Yeah, why was her name put? Why was
Too
her
many
name
things
put?
don't make sense.
So I said, as long as there's an investigation going on with a potential appointment, I felt in the best interest of the party, which is at that time what I was trying to do, was wait until that investigation was over, so reappoint John. And that's what I did. That's what the letter I submitted to the judge.
Why didn't you tell her that?
Yeah, you never
Why didn't you
told
tell
me.
her that?
What?
Why didn't you tell her that? Because you never explained that to her.
No, you told me after a meeting after you had already appointed John Cobbs. You never even ever gave me a chance.
Actually, during that one meeting when I talked to you for about 5 minutes, you kept saying it's the judge's decision, the judge's decision. You never actually said, I pulled her nomination and put in John
You asked me.
Cobbs.
And I think I told you that that was what I did.
For
Because
5
the
minutes,
investigation
that's
was
not
over.
what you told me.
Then that's the letter I wrote to the judge and asked to withdraw your name and then resubmit John Cobbs. Because it's my understanding there was an investigation going on, period. That's what that letter said to the judge.
I'd love to
So
see
it
it.
doesn't
I'd love to
indicate
see it.
anybody at all.
Can you send that to us?
I'm sorry.
When you interviewed Betty, did she tell you, she informed you there was a state police investigation?
Yeah. I think
But you
we
still
mentioned
submitted
that.
her name. And it wasn't until you talked to David about this that you decided to withdraw her name? What in the
I didn't know
hell
what
did the
I didn't know what
Democrats?
the outcome of the investigation
It doesn't make
was.
any difference.
We
are
never will.
presumed
They'll never find the
innocent.
flash
We are
drives.
presumed innocent until proven
So
guilty.
the police can never close it if they don't find the flash drives.
They have no
Okay,
intention
so-
of closing it.
I have correspondence with David Newmeyer and Pat Bauer
Right.
about not liking Betty Gibbs. Let's not
2
use
years
her
ago.
anymore.
2 years ago.
It's not a personality issue at all, Jim.
Yes, it
It's just when
is.
they
it is.
said there was an investigation, I said, well, maybe the best interest of the party at this time, then
What
let's
you
all
knew
make sure
about
that.
the investigation when you submitted her name.
All I heard was investigation.
Well, that's all.
I just think that you should have talked to her
Me personally.
when you heard this and say, Betty, I have a concern because the David or whoever is telling me that there is a serious investigation. So therefore, I'm going to withdraw your name. That's only common courtesy, but you didn't do it. You didn't tell her. And then you told me, you kept saying, trying to pass it off the judge, even though it was beyond the time of the appointment. You sat there for 5 minutes saying it's a judge's decision. I know that. But you didn't actually come out and say, by the way, I withdrew her name. And put it, so you sat there and lied to me for about 5 minutes. I really object to that. You lied to me for 5 minutes.
No, I didn't lie to anybody.
Yes, you
I
did.
just-
Yes, you did, sin of omission.
Okay, how are you interpreting that?
It was past the time.
You're asking me about
It's-
when was the judge making the appointment? And that, I didn't know because the paperwork.
It's
already
because it
did
was already done.
It was after the time when the judge normally does the appointment. It was a couple weeks after at one of these meetings. And I said, hey, have you heard back from the judge? Because it's past the time when they normally make appointments. And you said it's up to the judge. And I was like, well, I know that. That's the process. But haven't you heard back? Haven't you asked the judge what's going on with Betty's appointment? And all you said was it's up to the judge. You should have said, Karen, I withdrew her name. And I put in John Cobb's, but you didn't. You sat there and you purposefully let me believe something that was not true. So I totally object. You
Well, I
lied.
can see your point of view, Karen. But no, I think everything that I tried to do was honest and above board, acting on behalf of the
My concern
party.
is
You
that
consulted
David
with
Dumar
Democrats.
influenced you to
No, I
withdraw
wouldn't
this
say-
person's name.
Yeah.
You've already said you submitted her name,
Right.
and you didn't have any discussions about it until they brought it
So
up to
I-
you. How the hell did they know who you submitted? That's,
Because I told him.
why would you tell them? They're
Well, I
the
mean, I didn't tell them
Democrats.
who the name was. I just told them I
You can keep
submitted
that.
3 names.
How
It was
did
just
they
being
know
passed
that it
around.
was
Then
one?
when there's investigation,
Yeah.
then I asked, what does the investigation? And he goes,
You know.
said, I can't tell you because, they're still
Right.
investigating.
So without knowing, without really understanding the full scope of the investigation, that she was just one of many people in the precinct being interviewed, okay? Your actions have actually caused financial harm to her. You prevented her from getting a job, a paid job, based on consulting with one of the Democrats who told you something that they hope would influence your decision, and it worked. Okay, so it's just offensive. I mean, you should have talked to her. You should have looked more into the investigation and found out she wasn't the target. You should have thought about their motivations for trying to get you to pull it.
We're
So,
innocent
I
until
was-
proven guilty.
yes.
Jim, understand, I was trying to do what was in the best interest of what I thought the party at the time was investigating.
You were manipulated.
So
by
I didn't know that there was a
Yep.
financial motive.
Yes.
So now that this is coming out, because I don't know what these guys get paid.
It's a paid
And so this
position.
is- Yeah.
He gets paid
a paid
$5,000 a
position.
year to do nothing.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, so you know more than I do.
But you already did know that he was involved in the corruption out of the registrar's office, because I sent you that report in January, and it continues, because we have no Republican representative on the registrar, in the electoral board. They still broke the law
Well,
during the primary and
Betty,
didn't
you're
put all the
entitled to your
Republicans.
opinion about John, and I'm not gonna get into that debate.
It's
today.
not an opinion. I've read the law, and I analyzed what they are doing out of the registrar's office. It's not opinion.
Okay, I mean, no, as far as John Cobb's appointment and whatever you think about John not doing his job. Okay.
I know what you told me when we
Yeah.
met in January.
So, yes, and I agree that he could be doing a better job, and I think that's
Could
what
be
we're
doing
doing now. Okay. So that's where we are. I mean, now that we've gotten the electoral board's attention and we're making progress in getting people signed up to be involved in the poll, election process, I think we're moving forward in a good manner.
We have no one in their meetings. We have no Republican in the electoral board meetings.
Standing up for the Republican
That's
Party.
right.
So unfortunately, this
And
legacy
we
is
have
on
you to
you.
thank for that, and I will
on
tell
you.
people that too. I can't support your campaign because I know what you did, and as far as I'm concerned, you are linked with election fraud in this town. So I can't support your campaign.
That's fine. I'm sorry, that's,
Well, I'm sorry for what you did to me.
If
You
you-
lied to me.
No, I-
You said you would put my name in, and then you went
And
and
I did.
consulted with Democrats and pulled my name, based on slander.
You were-
And I hope that it all
John told me
becomes
there was
public.
an investigation. I confirmed it with David. So I said, well, if that's the
So
case.
what?
David
They
has nothing to
investigated
do
me.
with me. That's right.
They
He's part of the
investigated me.
investigation too.
They investigated the girl who they were gonna offer the job
But
as
you
chief.
weren't applying to be electoral board member.
Did you know the woman that
became
they
chief.
actually, part of the investigation, Democrat, they actually, didn't they give her promotion?
Yeah.
right? So here's someone
The
who's
one who
actually
touched the
part
flash drives.
of the
I never touched-
investigation, and they just gave her promotion. So what
So
you did is
know more
you,
than I do.
But see, you
in that
didn't
regard.
investigate.
you didn't
just went and
ask.
reappointed
You didn't ask, you just went right
talked
with what
to
the
David
Democrats told you
Would you
Drew
to.
her
make that
name.
appointment then, if what you're telling me is true?
No, they gave her a
They made her an
promotion.
assistant chief at the
Yeah.
June primary.
Oh, they wanted
Yeah.
to make her the chief.
Okay.
If Jim hadn't taken it, they would have made her the chief of the precinct.
Right, he
where
didn't
the
step
missing
up.
flash of and she was one of the last
So
people
this
to
is
touch
all
it.
past the
Yes.
January appointment then?
Yes.
Or whatever they've done?
Yes,
Yes.
but what I'm saying is, if everyone is so tainted because they're part of the investigation, then that wouldn't have happened, right? They honestly, and I
Well,
really
I
want
will
the
say
initial
this, I don't-
police complaint.
So that's what I was
We
about
need to
to-
get it.
That's what I was about to say. So it's still a investigatory file right now, and so it's not subject to FOIA at present. That being said, in the latter part of last year in early January, they were still, state police moves very, very slowly when it's an investigation of this nature, where it's sort of over and done with, nobody's in danger, et cetera. And so, but it was still more of an active investigation in that time period than it would have been May, June, et cetera. So I'm trying to, I don't want to be evasive sounding, but I also don't want to sort of break the law, because given my position as prosecutor, I've been able to obtain the report, but I can't really, it's not public records, I can't
Why
really
can't
share it.
you
But I
get?
can say this, it's basically done with, they just need to officially submit and close the matter, and the state police has not done that.
Okay.
Bethany has asked them several times to do it, they haven't done it yet.
They have no motivation
But
to do it.
what is, well,
Okay.
it isn't any sort of nefarious intent, it is the way the state police work. I've told
Okay.
Jim this,
What
and I
difference
don't.
does it make you're
I
innocent
don't
until
wanna-
proven guilty?
Yes, sir, but I can understand Wendell's thought process, not knowing what was gonna come out in this investigation, to say, do I wanna make a public appointment to a public position of an individual who is currently being investigated, and that be said about us, whether you're ultimately exonerated or not. Say, they appointed somebody who's being investigated by the state police for election fraud. Just that in of itself is a consideration, so I don't wanna relitigate with y'all.
Do you
So I
agree
got a
with
good
his,
point there,
with the
Jim.
fact that he didn't
But
even
that-
consult
well,
Betty afterwards
As
to
I said,
ask?
I don't wanna relitigate, I don't know what did and didn't happen between, and among all of y'all, so.
Well,
of
he
course,
admitted he didn't
communication
say
is-
anything.
Is best,
Okay.
so obviously, yes, but, I can simply say, to the extent that my opinion matters at all over what happened 9.5 months ago, is I get the fear of not knowing what that investigation was ultimately gonna bring out. I understand if he'd spoken with you, you'd say I did nothing wrong, and that should be trusted, but just this mere statement that can be put out, not this woman's being investigated from, is still not great if that sort of is the only soundbite that somebody hears, right? Because that's the way our media operates and the way we consume media. All that said, the investigation is like, you don't have anything to worry about. You know you don't have anything to worry about. Okay, I can tell you that. I feel.
Well, the
you know,
last two
to the
people
extent
that
I can say
touched
that.
the flash drives were
So,
Democrats
but-
working in the precinct.
So
Okay.
it's done, and all that needs to happen, and then you can ultimately see about making a FOIA request, et cetera, once it's all entirely closed, is for that sort of final report to be submitted. There should not be any more supplements that the state police does to it. But again, they work very hard. They have an incredibly difficult job. State police do. I like every one of them that I deal with. I can tell you this: we are constantly, and Jim's heard me say this before, constantly hounding them to give us written reports about things in active felony cases. I mean, I'll have a trial in 2 weeks for a felony that took place in February.
Yeah. I know
don't
that.
have a report from them.
I am surprised
And we
that
are,
if you.
we're saying, what is going, I mean, I understand sort of a thin, like, recitation from you as to what generally happened. I need a darn report. I need to know if there's some other witnesses that I
So you're
need to
saying
know
that we
that-
can't, when I
And
can go
so
online,
that's
if
just par for the course
if
for
someone's been
state police
arrested, I
to
can
take
get the
some
arrest
time.
report before anything has happened. You can go online.
Well,
So I'm really surprised we can't find this initial complaint, not
don't know that- I
not
don't-
the rest of the
I'm-
investigation, just the initial, because I
I'm
want to
not
see
sure
what
you
they.
can go online and get an arrest report for somebody who's got a pending charge. That's not true to my knowledge. I don't know where you get them from.
Go on a
but-
lot of websites
But
with
if something
mugshots
is
and all
part
that.
of a court
Yes.
filing, you can get that.
Okay,
But
okay.
simply. if
So how about
someone
this?
who's arrested
How about
and there's
this?
a
She's going to be
report,
exonerated, as is most of the people in that, if not all, in that precinct. Once she's exonerated, how about we re-up the effort to put her back on the electoral board?
Well,
Okay, because John Cobbs is not
so
responsive.
here's what I have to say about that. I have not dealt with John in my capacity right here until the last 3-4 weeks, okay? So he, and I'm gonna be talking with him more, but he understands the dissatisfaction that we have, because that's been communicated to him, it's apparent. And so what I want to do, rather than come in, and I understand all y'all's hard feelings about all this, I do, okay?
I think it's fraud.
Is
It's
Not hard
fraud.
feelings, that's right.
They
His time is
purposefully
money.
slandered to
So,
sway his
I'm not in a position-
decision
well,
to get their guy John back on the board.
I
Okay?
can't say that's true. I can say that you can interpret things that way. I don't know whether that's actually true. Okay, and so to implicate in myself personally, kind of say to John, you know, I want you out on your ear because I think you're engaged in this sort of conspiracy to defraud this process, or at least, you know, complicit in it, is not something I'm prepared to do right now, because I have to feel 100% confident and comfortable personally with doing that in order to do that. Okay, so what I can tell you is that may be where we end up. If there is no change out of what's been taking place, then I will become very receptive to that, because I will have a personal comfort with telling John, I've been watching, you are not doing your job the way that I want you doing your job. I'd like for you to. I'm not there right now. I understand. I have my antenna up and I'm watching because of everything y'all have told me. It's not something that I think right this moment was a constructive thing to do, because
Well, there is a
change
process
taken
for
in advance
removing
of November.
George, I was next.
But so that's where I am. Jim knows it's where I am. So
It's
go
a
ahead.
huge
but
election next year.
it's-
We
I told
don't
you I
have
was
time
next.
to waste.
So
I told you I was next.
Go ahead and recognize Jim.
yes, no,
He's patient.
yes.
We
so-
recognize
No
you, Jim.
interruptions. My concern has always been that David Niemeyer infected Wendell Walker to the point that Wendell withdrew her nomination. Here is the email correspondence between David and Pat Bauer. From David. This was a year before you sat down with Betty
This
and
is 2 years
talked
ago.
about
This-
appointing her. David said, "From what I have heard about her attitude already, I don't think meeting her will improve things, and we don't owe her a job." And that's a job working in the polls. This shows David's attitude towards Betty.
You
Here
said
is-
that when? A year ago?
Yeah, September 11th, 2017, a year prior to your meeting.
All right.
This was Pat's follow-up. The other Democrat on the board. I'm hoping that Betty does not want to work again, as I am also not in favor of using her. So you have the two Democrats on the board. One of them talked to you about her potential appointment that he shouldn't even have known about. And that's just what galls my butt, is that you were influenced by David Neumeyer to keep her off of the job, which she so knowledgeably deserves. And we've appointed John Cobbs, who doesn't know his butt from third base, and he ain't helping the Republicans one damn bit. So yes, I support you, but I'm mad as hell that you allowed David to influence you. Here's the proof.
I have no idea of any of that.
But you didn't even try to ask Betty about it. That's what
And plus,
galls
you
my
had
ass.
you had a long list of knowing what all the things that that John Cobbs had not done in that position, because I sent you the same email I sent the electoral board of all the fraud that had come out of that registrar's office. He oversaw that. He was on the board, and then you reappointed him, and they did the same thing in the primary. They continued to keep Republicans out of the precinct, and he's still a part of it, and you're a part of it now, because you reappointed him, knowing that he was incompetent, and knowing that I wasn't, that I had experience.
I appreciate your.
The fact that you would try to accuse me of criminal fraud is
Thank
just
you.
beyond the pale.
Wait a minute.
That you would
I've
have
never-
pulled my name, assuming that I am somehow a
guilty.
criminal.
Betty.
Yes.
I can understand your feelings and your attitude, but I never insinuated that you were
You did.
a criminal.
You pulled my name. If you
I
look
pulled
in the
your name
if
because
you
of
look at the
investigation,
reasons that people
but I
are
had
not
no-
qualified to be on the electoral board, having a vague police investigation because of a place that they were is not.
If you had asked the electoral board, Are you suspending everyone who worked in that precinct?
Right.
Who, because everyone's part of the investigation. Did you do that? No.
No.
No. You
She was
just,
the only one applying to be on the electoral board.
but you should have said, oh gosh, this sounds serious, a police investigation. What are you doing?
And that's the reason
then
I
if you
was
didn't
trying
know-
to act in the best interest.
I'm sorry, you're not gonna convince us. You
Well,
didn't.
and you're not
you
gonna convince
didn't.
me because you're sitting there insinuating that I'm lying.
You lied to me. You lied to me for
know
5
that
minutes,
I've
Wendell.
always been somebody of character.
You
I never
lied to me.
insinuated that you were a criminal.
Listen,
So to inject this into
passion's
the
good.
conversation,
You know, I mean, that's better.
I'm very disappointed.
You lied to me.
I get the impression.
I pulled your name because there was an investigation. I knew nothing about the
Oh,
investigation.
this is going
You
nowhere.
told me there was some thumb drives missing.
Right.
Much more.
That I had nothing to do
You did.
I'm not ready to go there and
No.
say he's
Look,
sort of.
I never got into that discussion with David.
He has been.
Nor did the Republican on the electoral board ever step up
Okay,
to defend
but there
a
again-
I
Republican,
agree with that, and I-
being me.
Yeah, seriously, this is not
Yep.
good. It's
Yeah,
not good.
the electoral board called
Not
me,
good.
I told you, the electoral board called me to a meeting 2 years ago to accuse me of something, I don't know what, because they never
Well,
accused
we
me.
need more
Because
so
they had
is
nothing,
representation.
but
Yeah.
gossip, and that's exactly what David Newmeyer
Yeah.
operates on.
Not a
is
stellar
gossip.
job. And actually, the fact that they've been able to come up with all these election officials.
Yeah, I mean.
When
what's
you
coming up
were
here
in
is
charge
stuff
here
that
for
I'm
many
exactly-
years, for many years.
Yeah, and all the time
and did
that
nothing.
John
Not a
Cobbs has
stellar
been
job.
on the board,
Seriously.
we never get any more,
No.
no matter how many
No.
names we submit. The list never gets any longer. John Cobbs is doing nothing
Yes.
for
Was
Republicans.
John part of this email?
I know. Yes, and
Because he just
Yes.
got
Yes.
Yeah, but he didn't
She
really
FOIA'd.
respond.
She FOIA'd, and by the way, they violated FOIA multiple times.
Right.
They violated FOIA multiple times. I mean, the hard facts of FOIA, for example, they're supposed to give you an estimate. This is a simple example. They're supposed to give you an estimate of how much it's going to cost to comply with your FOIA. They didn't. They wrote her an email and says, it's $78, we've already mailed it.
Well,
And then you heard them in the meeting say that they were charging for their own copies. FOIA says they give an estimate first,
They
and
don't
then you
have
agree.
to unless it's over $200.
No, that's not, no.
It does, because I don't want to argue with you, but because
Send that
I
to
don't know
me.
if you're talking about Amber, but because we just recently had this occur where they assessed a $58 bill on Amber for things that have been going on in these meetings that we've been attending, where there was follow-up requested from them insofar as writing down what our questions were, etc. And then they went on and researched these, and Christine fires off this out of stone cold blue. So we went to this meeting, nobody breathed a word of FOIA, etc. Week and a half later, Amber gets a
No,
emailed
that's not
letter
right.
from Christine that says,
FOIA says-
because you
no.
submitted this in writing,
No.
we have to treat this as a FOIA
No.
request. I can tell you that I spent, honest to goodness, 4.5, 5 hours the following Tuesday, the next day, this was
Yeah.
last Tuesday, researching, and then writing a response to them.
Mm-hmm.
So this is all very fresh in my mind. There is direction from the FOIA advisory committee that they should provide an estimate in all instances.
Well, and see,
Should.
originally
But
I
if it's less than
offered to pay
$200, they're not
$25.
obligated to. If an individual asks for an estimate, they are obligated to.
And she did.
Well, I'm not.
She did.
Amber did. I don't know about that. Okay. I'm
No,
not,
I'm talking
so
about Betty's.
I'm talking about two different things.
She
But I
did.
heard you say they have to do it. It's only upon request.
On their,
Yes.
on
So-
their policy that they have on their website.
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
the
just like in
law is-
Appomattox.
Yeah.
It says, we're gonna give you an estimate,
Yeah.
okay? So seriously, they've violated their own policy if
That's
nothing
the-
else.
and the
The
law
other thing
is if
is,
they request
in
it,
what
they
they
have to
gave
do
her,
it.
which was a whole bunch of junk, which she specifically said, don't give me that junk, and they gave her the junk,
Yeah, and
okay?
they charged her.
Stuff that you can then get on the website, including the manual on how to be an election official,
Right.
duh.
And emails I had sent.
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
They also, in some of the emails, they reference a file on you, and they didn't give it to her, when that's exactly what she was asking for. So-
Those are potentially excludable under FOIA, but I still don't understand it as well as say my wife does, because she has to deal with the FOIA requests, and I just.
Well, we're not letting this drop, because what they're doing is they're trying to make it expensive, and they're just
Understood.
trying to
And-
stonewall.
And that's
And that is the pattern of
the
these people,
response
and
that I sent to
obviously,
them, I said, we're not, look, you need to consider waiving this fee. It's an inappropriate fee. The way
Yeah.
that this has all gone down is very
Yeah.
disappointing. And the tone that I took in the letter was I said, this is not in keeping with the spirit of cooperation that needs to be taking place between this committee
right.
and your board. And so I'd like for you to reconsider this fee. This is improper the way these things have gone.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a 3-page letter. And the response I got from them is, we do not need to pay it right now. At their next meeting, they're gonna discuss whether to waive it or not. So we'll see what happens. But if they don't waive it, then my opinion is gonna be that we're not paying it and let them come try and collect it, because it's bull the way
It
that
is.
they've done this.
Although they, by the way,
So-
will say that unless you pay, you can't submit another one.
Well-
That's
Did you
okay.
get the
Get somebody else
answers
to do
anyway?
it.
We got what most of what Amber was asking.
Because that's a public hearing, I mean, everybody was there.
Yeah. So.
Right.
I'm wondering
This
why
is what
they
they're
didn't
doing.
charge.
They're trying as much as possible to exclude Republicans. They were
Again, like I say,
successful,
I'm
okay?
not-
So we're not gonna let up, we're not
I'm
gonna let up on this.
I'm not naive, and I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not. Well, I don't think I'm naive. Maybe I'm so naive. I don't. I am naive. And I don't know. But so I'm not foreclosing the possibility that this is all a big. I'm not. Unless until I personally sort of am, which I am now, in this process and observe these things taking place where I'm dealing with these people, and I can say, which this FOIA thing was time number one, of my dealing, because Amber forwarded that to me and I was fighting mad. I mean, you can
Yeah.
ask Bethany, I sent her, I said, I can't believe this bullshit.
Yes.
I mean, I was pissed.
And that's what this is.
And so, I may get there with y'all, but so, if you
We're
could
just
give me
further
a
down
little
the
bit of
road on that.
Give me a little bit of slack, is my
Give you another week
request.
or two.
In
You'll be
that
with us.
I need to, I can listen to y'all's war stories, dealing with them all day long. I've heard a lot of them. And so, if that's the way things
Yeah.
go, now that they know we're on top of them, we're sending them 27 new people.
We'll see what they do with
telling them
those.
to cram their FOIA, bills and stuff. If they keep on keeping on,
Right.
things
So
are
we,
gonna happen.
so we see what happens
we'll
with
see.
your list of election official
So-
potentials. We see what they do. We see if they pull the stunt like they did at the primary,
Right.
which is put in Democrats instead of
Yes.
Republicans.
Yes.
This is a pattern.
If it
Mr.
happens this
Prosecutor,
November, that's
this
right.
is a pattern.
Well, if it happens this November, then we are going to move, whether it be court filings or
Right.
I'm gonna be closely watching how John handles things, the amount of communication we have with him about what's taking place, and so.
He should
Anyway,
be our
I understand
advocate
y'all's-
on that board.
I understand
And he
y'all's
should be
passionate about
fighting
everything.
to make sure that the FOIAs are done properly, right?
Yeah.
And that the election people that you put forth are trained and
properly
installed.
used, right.
Yes.
So, like I say, I get everybody's passion on this, and I don't know that I can match it because y'all are super, which is great because this is something that's
Yeah.
very
Well,
important.
Ms.
to you.
Financial harm
But-
over here,
but
especially. Seriously.
It is obviously very important. To you. We've spent a great deal of time on this topic since I've taken over. It's really been the foremost thing we've been working on, which is fine. It's fine, but we are working.
Right.
Okay,
I'm hoping
so-
that this can get nailed down with the election officials so that they know that they can't pull this type of crap again.
Yes.
And that when we move forward into next year, the very important 2020, that this will not be an issue.
Yes.
So Christine, I think she's fairly new. Is she
Yes,
fairly new?
is. She's been there about 2 years, maybe.
So she needs to learn that she needs to do her job
Right.
and not a partisan job.
And again, I don't
Okay.
know her well enough to know whether she's simply being told this is how we do things around here and she's doing them in good faith, or whether she's acting in bad faith. I have to. sort
No,
of
she
see that
needs to learn
myself,
FOIA if nothing else.
So anyway, all right.
Thank
And the
you.
election.
This is
Thank you.
kind of enlightening because these emails that Jim was sharing, had no idea. So.
If you had asked her, if you had gone to her and say, what's up?
We didn't know.
What's up? So, anyway, if you could send us, Wendell, your initial, or talk to the judge's secretary and say that Karen told her, because by the way, I don't know